Did you see the post on my car?
All right, Woodman Hills Metropolitan District regular board meeting for Thursday, September 26, 2019 is called to order. It is, what time is it? You guys want these started?
5:35.
You don't have to read.
Or no? Yeah, we're doing exactly.
5 minutes late.
5:35. And roll call.
Russell Ryder, here.
Carl Lukens, present.
Sherry Ringen, present.
Troy Stinson present. And our general counsel is present.
He's kind of here.
None accounted for.
Okay.
Kind of here.
We'll now enter executive session to determine positions relative to personnel matters under CRS 246401 F1.
Second.
And just, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Motion carries. We're now in executive session. Okay. Item 5 will be President's welcome and remarks. Rules of conduct. Welcome. We got a lot fewer here tonight than we normally do. It's like, we did get some feedback on, what did we get feedback on? I got an email from one of the residents about the no parking signs out on Stapleton, saying thank you. It was followed up by a couple other emails saying thank you for working with whoever you guys work with to get those no parking signs up along Stapleton there. It's not. Yeah.
How can you put signs on county property?
So, want to answer that?
It's our property.
That's county property off the road for so far.
Actually, the process involved contacting the county, and the county said that they will not supply any signage, but if we would put signs up, they would enforce it.
Thank you.
But thank you guys for being here. I know we're coming up on, well, winter already. Wow. So, we got a pretty easy agenda tonight with what we discussed in the board vacancy. And I do believe that we have a nomination for the board vacancy tonight. And then everything else is,
Who should be? Nicole. One moment.
so we'll get to that. Does somebody want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 6, approval of agenda. We have 2 agendas to approve. Let's start with the agenda from the Thursday, August 22nd, 2019, that we had pushed to this meeting because there was a item we needed to have fixed on it.
Motion to approve the agenda is amended.
Second.
Any discussion on it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And then the approval of the agenda, September 26th.
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Approval, disapproval of board minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Attorney's report?
Things are pretty quiet. Worked with Corey on the rec center activities. I'm sure she's gonna speak on it a little later. Had some discussions regarding the fire department inclusion, and that's still in process, not ready for decision yet. I think that's fairly it right now. Things are pretty quiet.
Okay. Any questions? All right, approval, disapproval of the financial report.
I move to approve the financial report.
I'll second. Any discussion on the financial report? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 10 will be the board vacancy. We have an open board vacancy, and I think I described this at the last meeting. That a nominee or an appointment to this seat will sit on this seat through May, and then run for re-election in May. And then that seat will run through 2022, as it is one of our 4-year seats, and then we'll be up for election again in 2022. I think I had to read it like 6 times to make sure I have it right. So, speaking of board vacancy, does anybody have any nominations for the board?
I nominate Jared Harmon.
Okay.
He's been a Woodman Hills community member since 2012, and wants to help the community.
Jared, you want to tell us about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Jared Harmon. I've been in the community since 2012. I work for Colorado Springs Utilities. I got a little family here and we're hanging out. I definitely value making sure that, people are taken care of and that, everything around us is in an orderly fashion and people are happy and there's not big problems that run around. But other than that, I enjoy helping people, and I like to be that guy that mows people's lawns for them because they're busy or at work, or I just enjoy doing that for money.
Get me until you.
It's in the money portion. Ultimately, I like to see everybody having the best day they can, and I'm here to help any way that I can do that.
You haven't been attending board meetings in the past, or at least I don't think, because I usually come and I haven't seen you. Is
That's
there-
great. No, I haven't, no. It's not through lack of interest. Honestly, up until recently, I was a full-time student and I ran a separate handyman business, and so now I'm really just I'm still going to school. That's school forever, I think, but I don't run a separate business anymore, so I have more time to.
So attendance would not be a problem?
Oh, absolutely not.
All right, thank you, Jared. Any other nominees? Are you eligible to run for the board?
Me?
Yeah.
You want, you're gonna nominate me?
I am.
Okay.
I'm gonna nominate Neva. Can you spell your last name for me?
Herrrold.
And I know most of the community, you come to all the meetings, you like to tell us about yourself.
I'll stand up too.
She's my buddy.
That alone doesn't get me any votes. Gets me a friend, but not votes. I moved here December of 14, so I've been here just 55, December will be my 5 years. And it took me close to a year before I started getting active, because it's like, I started realizing, wait a minute, what's going on in our government, whether it's the county commissioners or here. And I started coming to meetings. I go to all of these board meetings as best I can, and all the school board meetings, because children are our future and I care about that. And I'm retired, so I probably wouldn't have a problem getting to meetings.
You had an issue at one point with the times that this was versus the school. Is that gonna be an issue at all?
No, the school board meeting is 2 weeks,
It's
second
it's
Thursday.
the
Oh,
second
it's the second.
Thursday, and this is the fourth Thursday, and that's,
So that was when we did that one
it
change then?
probably was just the one.
Understood, okay.
Yeah, because if it was gonna be permanent, then it would be an issue for me. But as long as they're every other,
Okay.
it's not a problem. But I care about the community and how the board's spending our money.
My opinion, she's the best you can get.
Yeah, but that's not biased or anything.
No, not at all.
I didn't hear you say she's your friend, but.
They only know each other here, it's the only time I see each other.
We've been buddies since school board meetings, you know.
Any other nominees? We want to discuss.
You might consider a motion to close the nominations.
Okay. Nothing? All right, I'll motion to close the nominations.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so those are our two nominees, Jared and Eva. Do we want to discuss now, or?
We have time. I don't know, it'd be good to get somebody on here too, Doug. I'm thinking.
First of all, are we prepared to appoint one of them tonight?
I think so.
I don't think so.
You can see it's not taken very lightly. It's, as far as nominating folks for the board, and I'll just give you, my reason for my nomination is simply this. I like having people that are objective, 100% objective, and look at all sides of everything before we make a decision on anything. That way we can make the best educated decision. I'm not saying it's always gonna be the right decision, but I will say that we do try to make the best educated decision as a board. And as you all that come to the meetings every weekend, or month in, month out, nothing happens outside of what the board decides, not the individual board directors. It is about the board, and it's very important that we have 5. Some of the boards for districts and things up north have 7, 9 board members. Ours sits at 5. I think it's a good mix, and we have a very good mix. The other thing I always look at is, personally, my personal opinion, is demographics within our district, to make sure that we have representation of all of our demographics in the district. That's a very important thing to me. I don't want anybody feeling left out. I watch the elections and the politics in the city and things, and kind of see what the demographics are, and Daniel knows that better than anybody about demographics for, as far as, I think, state elections and things, but as far as how Colorado is set up. But in our community, which is only getting larger, making sure that all of our different demographics in this community are represented is very important. If we have all of us from the same demographic, we may not be represented properly in one or another demographic, and somebody will get left out. So that's just my 2 cents on the nomination and how I weigh it. And that really put a lot of weight in my nomination as far as where I think we needed to be as a board. I'll yield to any other comments. I do have one question. Do we need to vote on each one individually or just?
Let me broaden the answer. Sort of trying to stay out of it. You could do it by open ballot or secret ballot. And and to your question, you could, well, if you did it by a ballot, then you would know right out of the box who got the most votes. And that's sometimes easier than person A, you vote for them, and then person B, you vote for them. But if you have a ballot, then all of that gets resolved just in the vote. So as I said, you can have open ballot or closed ballot.
Anybody got a pair of scissors and 4 little pieces
Right.
of paper?
Yeah, I was gonna
There's some
say.
agendas back here, you can cut up. I mean, if everyone has theirs.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I
can get paper, are you looking just for?
Yeah, just go to 4.
I've got some notebook paper right here.
You wanna do that? Everyone have pens?
Yep.
And simple solution is folks just write a name on there, turn them in, and see what you get.
You wanna cut them up or you gonna just use 4?
Oh, we got 4.
Yeah, we got him.
Excellent. Let's do a voice call.
You want me to collect them? You want me to collect them?
That's what down to you.
Yes, you can collect them.
Okay. Probably not going to announce the vote, I'm just going to announce the one.
It could very well be a tie.
Which is why we need 5.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
My friend.
Nice try.
You open it with what?
No matter which way this goes, I appreciate you both. I really do, okay?
It's a compliment to the district that there's several folks interested.
I'm glad you booked here too.
Shall I announce the winner?
No, let's wait till next month.
I'm open to bribery.
That was good.
Neva is the winner.
Yay! Congratulations.
And I didn't count this one.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, all right, I want to make sure.
In the
Okay,
bit of a time. No.
all right, I would motion that we appoint Neva Harold to Woodland Hills Metropolitan District Board of Directors to fill the remainder of Nicole Vance's term through May.
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
But remember, there is an election coming up.
If your smiling face was seen here more often, who knows what'll happen in May.
Yep. The hair thing is.
No, that doesn't play a role in it.
No.
It's not that we don't like you, we just know you are better.
Now I feel like you don't like it.
I wasn't thinking that.
Do you want to seat your new board member?
Yes. Do we have, we don't even have swearing documents, so we're
No,
gonna.
we're gonna have to do that at the next board meeting. We'll have to have Christina come as the notary and do the oath and all that.
Okay.
But this will be your seat.
It's a good one. She'll keep you in line.
Okay, so we'll swear in at the next, at the next meeting. And just make sure that if that bumps up against the 60-day county deadline,
Oh, that's a good thought.
if we need to push the meeting up or back, or what we need to do to make sure we're within the 60 days. I think we're good as long as we've appointed before the 60-day. But let's just make sure on that.
Okay.
Public comment regarding current board business not on the agenda. Is anybody on there? Nobody?
Nobody.
Did we do Park and Rec?
Yeah,
We did?
no.
No. No, it's not on there.
We post the
Okay.
reports on our website, and then, if Jerry or Corey has something really important, we figure they can talk about it during other business. But since they're on our website, and
Yeah.
everyone can read, hopefully. They get posted right after the meeting, right?
Usually about early next week.
Yeah, so.
But we have no public comment. I'll go over a couple of things off this Parks and Rec report here, just for those of you here, because I had a couple of questions on it.
Sure.
While we're in other business here. And that is, we are, September 3rd began the full day hours at RCE from 6:30 to 8 p.m., 7 a.m. to 6 on Saturdays, and noon to 6 on Sundays. It says usage 80 participants. Is that
So-
total for the time, or is
No,
that?
no, 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 just from that 12 to 4 time frame.
So that's roughly 80 participants per day that are?
No, total for
Okay,
that time.
total, okay.
But, which is actually, in my
That's not
opinion,
bad.
kinda good.
I thought it looked pretty good.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Considering that was
Somebody
80,
coming.
yeah.
considering that's 80 participants through that week that would not have had that
Yeah,
access given
absolutely.
the old hours,
Yeah, and
so,
we're seeing it's a lot of, parents with kids,
okay,
lap swimmers, it, really a hodgepodge of different people.
okay.
Cool.
I'm encouraged, actually.
That's great.
I like it.
I was hoping we would see that.
Yeah, I was concerned that we weren't gonna see anybody, but,
We can only gauge it if we do it, if it
Absolutely.
makes sense to do it, and then put it out there and see
Yeah.
if it does.
and more
Glad.
people are, Daniel's blasted it a couple of times on Facebook, so the word's getting out.
Okay,
I'm encouraged.
and then 2354 September usage, that's it.
Yep, so for, what I do is I take, the Monday prior to the board meeting to the next Monday prior to the board meeting. So in the month of September, we have 2354 visits.
Okay,
Yeah, and then
Nice.
CCW, we average around anywhere from the 31 to 34 for CCW, and we do that by how many entries?
so that's roughly, what, 30% of the community
Yep.
using,
That's
that's pretty good.
And that's why, with the whole expansion thing, you have to take those two numbers combine them for usage potential.
Good. CCW is doing well as well, as far as users. I've seen the e-blast and the email and the Facebook page about all the different programs over there now.
Yeah, we're leaning toward doing something in January, and so we're kind of experimenting that right now with the fitness, and so I think you and Carl are aware of that with our budget meetings. So we've had some great response. I think it's gonna be extremely successful when we go forward with that, if we go forward with that prior to budget approval.
Okay.
And our doggy dip was fun. I don't know if anyone attended, but theirs, we had $52. Isn't that fun? Isn't that
And
great?
we are posting, we have you all have the final draft of the budget for next year. We are posting for hearing the next meeting, correct?
In the
So-
paper.
So there will be public hearing on the budget at the next scheduled meeting,
And I did bring some budgets if anyone wants to pick theirs up.
so.
Anybody wants a draft? Yeah, I have a hat.
Revisit the appointment and the 60-day max. If that resignation was accepted the 22nd, our board meeting on the October 20, anyway, it'll be well past 60
You're
days.
like the 25th or something.
It'll be past 60 days.
Double check that on the 60 days.
Okay.
Yeah, but another version of that is you could,
If we have to call for a special meeting, we'll call for a special meeting to swear in.
you could appoint her tonight, and subject to completing the technical elements of it, the oath and so forth, just as ministerial activities, but the actual appointment occurs.
Which we have appointed her tonight. so-
Although, we're already within 60 days.
But we don't want to be without the honor.
I don't want to be beyond 60 days.
No, you don't want to be.
Yeah.
So if we go over the 60 days, that's what we don't.
Yeah.
want.
And I'm
We've
saying
appointed her.
we're already far enough, because
Yeah, we're
the
good.
county election is less than 60 days from now.
Oh, no.
Right?
What are you
No,
talking
I don't
about?
understand where you're going.
It's from her resignation.
As
It's from
far
her
as,
resignation.
as far as our guidelines with Dora and how we fall in, is she resigned, so we would need to appoint somebody within 60 days.
Right.
Of her
Or-
resignation.
Of her resignation,
Mm.
or it would make it possible for the county to step in and appoint somebody into that seat.
I thought we were talking about when the election could come. I thought we were talking about the possibility that there would have to be a special election to coincide with the county
Only
election
if
in
the
November.
county, only if the county didn't appoint somebody to that seat would they do a special election.
Got it.
So. But we've appointed Neva to the seat, so.
So there will probably be papers for you to sign and an oath to take in the mechanical parts of this in the next couple days.
Okay,
Okay. But the appointment's tonight.
okay.
So would she then be included in any email we would send to a board member?
Yes.
We'll have to get her
Effective
emails
to-
and-
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
just up to Rachel to get the paperwork
Yeah,
Yes,
so
necessary.
say,
all
can
bond
you-
paperwork, everything. go-
After-
And then have her come in and.
After the meeting.
Have her
you
sign
talk to
whatever you need her to
Reba and
sign.
Get whatever you need from her to start. Thank you.
Anybody have any other business? I just want to touch on those things in Parks and Recs,
Yeah.
that's important.
Yeah,
Those 4 hours are making, I believe, an impact, and it's working, so, you know, whether or not it sustains is another thing. But I would encourage with all the new programs and stuff that everybody get out and use the Parks and Rec centers.
And we're gonna start offering some programs during that time frame. So hopefully that'll bring some more.
to Corey and John, don't you want to talk about what you
Yes,
achieved?
yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, so with the expansion committee, I did feel a need for them to be here. They engaged, we engaged CMG Construction Management to take us from point A to point, I could always call it like point G, to get the bid packet ready. And I have a meeting with CMG tomorrow to kind of set up a schedule, set up a meeting with the committee, this kind of thing. So it's rolling, we're rolling.
And it's a compliment to John and the committee, you all stuck with this thing, worked it through various iterations till we're now at a major decision point, or actually we're kind of past it.
Yeah.
Of moving on, so it's really quite a compliment to y'all, what you did as a committee, and
Yeah.
to Corey working with you guys. So,
No, I'm impressed. I think I think y'all were very successful, so. And I'll have more information for y'all tomorrow after the meeting with CMG.
So I have a question that has nothing, that goes back a couple of steps. So is it gonna be normal now that we're not gonna do park and rec report, we're not gonna do water wastewater report, we're just gonna say, hey, read them on the website? Is that the new norm now?
No.
Unless there's something pressing.
If there's something big that we need to get out there, I think it's important that we go through it. And I didn't see it on this one, but we'll definitely, the next meeting, let's make sure they're back on there. Because I'm looking at them here, and I just want to make sure that we're going over them. I know our meetings run long, but, I mean, please understand that it's a month's worth of work in every one of these meetings. And it's not like the state or county gives you much leeway to just, hold 1 million meetings a year. For one, getting board members together for 1 meeting a month, even if you go to school board meetings, if you go down to, I know county commissioners had to cancel 2 meetings because they didn't have a quorum. So there's just a lot of things everybody's got going on. So when we try different things to consolidate or we thought probably executive session was gonna take longer than it did, probably thought the board vacancy filling nomination process was gonna take longer than it did. So the agenda's shortened up. But if there's something in water and wastewater, I know
Even if you just stood up and said, I really don't have anything
Right.
significant or new to report.
Not giving the report at the meeting is still taking your transparency away.
Yes.
Well, we could certainly offer a printed report.
I was gonna suggest that too.
Yeah.
Would that be okay if you got a printed thing, or do you want us to just talk about it?
We can have cop, because we never.
I think you should talk about it, so if people have questions, they can ask them.
And I think that's fair,
That's fair,
and I think
too.
that's important. We've tried to make our board meetings more of an open discussion than a forum where we're doing all the talking up here and you guys get just that little piece in the public comment. And we do that so that the community can be more involved in these meetings and have a little bit more say or be able to answer their questions. I used to sit out there and I told it, by the time we got to where I needed to ask my question in public comment, I forgot what I was gonna ask. So having you guys go direct is there, presenting that information. So let's make sure we get that back on there. And just so we do it for today, to stay with our, how we've been doing it. I've got I think you have a copy of it there, don't you? Water and wastewater report. Let's at least talk about the lift station 1 progress. That is a big ticket item in the district.
And lift station 1 is, it's located on Falcon Highway, next to the school. It's about a $1.4 million project. It's replacing an outdated facility that has reached the end of its life expectancy. The new facility is, the size difference is significant. It's provides personnel with more than enough room to work on the equipment. We aren't in a confined space, which requires special retrieval apparatus, air monitoring. It requires, for every person that goes down into the confined space, you have to have at least one up on top monitoring it. So, it's a much improved facility. Right now, the facility is out of the ground, the roof is on, electrical's going in, process plumbing is, I think, pretty much complete. We're waiting on a meter. Our old facility, the meter had expired, so we were back. We did have another metering system that we had applied to it that wasn't as robust. So we're going to have much more accurate measurements on our wastewater flows out of that lift station. At any rate, we're expecting it to be online October 25th.
And budget-wise?
Budget-wise, we're in there, we've actually saved quite a bit of money making changes. We are, I haven't gotten the breakdown of all that we've saved. That'll probably come up in the next, pay application, pay request. So, be able to report on that next month. But that is the big ticket item, and it just so happened, you know, I mean, we're a month out of getting our new lift station up and running, and the old one, motor burnt up. You know, we just had, it was a major ordeal because we have valves that are not operable. When I was one of the people that got the pleasure of maintaining that old lift station, and you'd have to use a lever in order to turn the wheel to shut off valves. And, you know, the purpose of exercising valves is to keep them loose. And this valve, I mean, it got operated because I was working on the lift station. And eventually it got to the point it would move. And to understand, the valve weighs, you know, several hundred pounds, and the working conditions in the lift stations were very tight, very difficult. I mean, you get two guys my size down there, but you know, you get a couple of big guys down there, they really have a hard time. And so it was really unfortunate that we had to have problems like that. That lift station was so close to the end. But anyway, we got motor changed out and everything is back up and operational. But matter of fact, I don't know if Dan and I have been working on providing some pictures for website and stuff, and some of the pictures are of that lift station and the work that was going on there. A lift station has, I know I'm getting way beyond what you mean, but a lift station has to have emergency overflow capacity. The emergency overflow capacity of this lift station, the way it was constructed originally, was very minimal. I would say non-existent. We had devised a way to use an exterior pump in order to lift the sewage when we had a problem with that lift station, and that was employed during that time. This is one other reason why we had to, you know, do a new lift station, is because the emergency overflow just was not operational on its own. Lift stations are an integral part of our system. They're something that you want to avoid whenever you can. You know, your sewer system should flow by gravity to wherever you want it to go. That just isn't possible. Sometimes you have to put it into a lift station where it's pumped, and we have that, and we're not unique, but it's important that these facilities are in top-notch condition and can always, and they run 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and when there's and they have to be operational. If they fail, and you cannot get them operational in time, you end up spilling raw sewage on the ground, and state and the EPA does not like that one bit. Not that we like it, but the point is that they have the capacity to fine us. And so, I know the city of Colorado Springs had a lot of problems with SSOs. They had problems with people throwing things in manholes, blocking manholes, causing overflows into Fountain Creek, and they were fined pretty heavily. And our downstream neighbors were definitely pursuing enforcement against Colorado Springs Utilities and that. But,
So the company that we went with to do this, remember we had two
Yeah.
companies bidding. One was wanting this much money, the other one was quite a bit lower.
Right, the company that we went with, studied the soils reports, determined that, the excavation could be done without additional shoring to hold the, excavation walls. And, they knew that if, they were wrong, that
They would pay.
they would pay, but they weren't. They were able to accomplish it without any trouble. So that put them over the top, and they're doing a great job. Everything is working out very well. Like I say, we're looking forward to October 25th to see this thing up and running, so.
Well, it just shows that the board made an awesome choice by going with a company that's not well-known and a big company out there. Everybody's gotta start somewhere. They gave them the opportunity, and if they can complete a project like that, I'm sure that's gonna be great for their resume in the future, so.
But they weren't doing it, I mean, they're just starting here. They've
No,
been doing this in
understood.
Arizona for years.
Understood, but they weren't known around here.
Right.
Everybody's like, do we take a choice? They're saying that they can do it for this much less. Is that really the best idea? The board took a chance. They actually made an awesome decision, and it worked out great for us, so. Saved the community a lot of money, and that's what this community needs, is a board that will save them a lot of money.
Okay, yeah.
I have one other question real quick, Jerry.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see it on the report, and that's where are we with the water tank? I know we're past the easement surveys,
It's, the preliminary design has been submitted, we've reviewed it. We're looking to go out to bid yet this year,
When do you think it'll be done?
November of 2020.
I'm aware of the way we had to design change because of how they built that other tank. Can you explain to them how you explained it with the tank elevations and us getting more out of our tank?
Right, so, Sterling, we share a site with Sterling Ranch. Sterling Ranch built a water tank, and they did not follow, our engineer's advice on how to build it. And so they built it too short. There's this kind of a sweet spot in building tanks, certain diameters, certain heights. And, in order to, we're not going to be connected to Sterling Ranch necessarily. I mean, there's always a chance someday, something might happen where we wanna use both of those tanks. And so we want our tank to be at the same elevation. So to accomplish that, we're gonna put our tank in the ground about 6 feet, so that we have the same, the sidewalls that we wanted without getting the height above Sterling Ranches. But that will, tanks have to be the same height, or you would have difficulties. I mean, it can be done, but with certain valves, but valves are all mechanically prone to fail. You wanna keep your elevations the same, your overflow is the same, so you know all of your water levels can be maximized. So.
And capacity wise on that tank?
Well, we're looking at a 2 million gallon tank, but we're also investigating a 2.5 and a 3 million gallon tank to see what provides us with the best value. So, again, you know, it's an economy of scale in a way, you know, when sometimes the bigger you go, the less it costs per gallon of storage. So, we're investigating that for
So are we still sharing a water tank with somebody?
sure. Are we what?
Are we sharing?
No, we aren't, you know, planned for the future.
Right.
And, we also share a site with Meridian Ranch, where we have a 2 million gallon tank right now,
Okay.
so.
Any other business? You had something else, you were gonna start something else.
Well, I just wanna plug our wastewater plant, because it is performing so well. And the guys are doing a great job. initially, it's, the wastewater plant is designed with 2 trains of treatment. Initially, we put 1 train online. And we wanted to get the 2nd train online before cold weather set in. They did that right after Labor Day. And performed it without any hiccups and no operational problems, stayed within permit. So, and I would tell you, I spent 10 years with Woodland Hills writing letters to the state apologizing for our wastewater treatment. And now I don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, bragging rights now.
It is really nice.
This
I
is
think
a
they
proud
got,
papa
they're,
here.
they're catching on to my, without dazzling them with my, no, it's really nice. And we couldn't be more pleased with the way that thing's performing. So,
I represented a town that built a sewer plant, and they are very proud to brag about the fact that the water that goes into the river from this plant is cleaner than the water coming down the river. And I suspect you're in the same place.
that is typical with wastewater plants. They put water back.
It's not typical, it's how
Well,
good
you
you
know,
did it.
one of the things that we are testing for in wastewater, I have lower limits in drinking water. And they're more concerned about the bugs in the river than they are about.
Yeah.
So politically, you have something to brag about,
Yes.
okay? It's cleaner coming out of our sewer plant than it is in the river water coming down the
They
river.
say you can drink it, but
I
I
still
wouldn't
would
test it.
try it.
Come on, toilet to tap. I
Yeah.
think that's awesome, I do.
I'm sure,
Reuse.
I'm sure in the future that will become a thing.
Oh, it's already a thing.
Based on water usage and water
Yeah.
scarcity and things. So I'm sure it's coming,
Well,
I
you
don't
know,
doubt it, man.
Now, let's ship it over to Meridian Ranch.
the interesting thing
How did
is.
you spell that, S-H-I? Is that a P or a T?
The interesting thing is, they're talking about, you know, the space station. And, I don't know how often or how, you know, but that water that's in that space station gets reused over and over and over and over. And I don't know how many times I have to repeat that.
It's
But
amazing.
I mean,
That is amazing.
they pee here and it comes out over here drinkable.
Okay, I think on that note. Yes, Steve.
Has there been any more updates on either the possible King Supers or Falcon Fields? And before you answer, I just heard from my HOA board member that they had talked to somebody that said, or read, that King Supers just bought property on the other side of 24 behind Shamrock gas station, which would mean they're not gonna do anything here. I don't know, I'm just asking.
No, because the latest I heard was they were starting over here with this corner lot in November.
Yeah, and isn't that other lot like part of what the new gas station wanted to use?
No, the other lot is part of that Circle K deal.
Yeah.
Circle K is going in where the Diamond Shamrock is.
Well, there's supposed to be a Colorado Springs that's gonna have a parking lot too, like going from
Yes.
somewhere from 24 over to Falcon
Well, my
Road.
understanding is that's not done yet, the parking right deal.
That hasn't been solidified.
Now, I know Falcon Fields is up for, I think they're at review stage with the county right now, if I remember right. There's a lot that goes into that with that, road and 24 and stuff. Because
Sure.
24's, the 24 Meridian interchange is they're starting construction in November?
I don't know, my contact with the county, my request for information, was that they were gonna have a bid document out in 2 weeks. And, so.
Because we were laughing how they were gonna shut down.
I asked for a construction schedule, so.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna shut down part of Old Meridian to do the road which does affect us some. We have to lower our water line under Meridian, because the ground that they uncover there is it's going to expose our line, right? Or leave it
Right.
very minimally covered.
Our water lines are, 5 feet minimum there, and they're gonna remove, I think, up to 3 feet of cover over our water line, so we have to lower it.
Question? Represents some ditch companies, and they have crossing agreements all the time. I mean, we sent out another one today, and they get $2,500 for every crossing agreement. Do you guys have crossing agreements? When something wants to cross your line?
No, they're not nothing's crossing our line,
I'm just saying, anywhere in the system, this ditch company has generated a ton of money with.
yeah, I'm not familiar with what, with that terminology, but.
Crossing agreements? Oh, okay.
Let's, if you just send them some stuff.
Most
let's
of your
look at
water
some
lines
stuff.
on parallel to the road, not across it.
Okay, I'm just saying, in the whole system, in this ditch example, Excel, sometimes it's fiber optics, sometimes it's water. It's whenever they, in this case, whenever they cross the ditch has a crossing agreement, the ditch company has a crossing agreement and gets $2,500 every single time. So, if somebody's crossing your pipes,
No, no one's crossing our pipes.
Anybody's crossing.
Our water line's in Old Meridian, and it, right in front of the old fire station number 3. There's a rise, and it goes down to 24, the county wants to lower that. And so
I'm just speaking generally, not to that specific.
Something probably for us to look, future-wise, to look into. If it's a money generator, as far as something that we wouldn't have gotten.
Now I know why my cable bill's so high.
Yeah, I don't think it applies to us, because
Well, maybe not, I'm just laying out there that example.
very unusual that, we're the monopoly here. If anyone's gonna cross one of our lines, it's gonna be us. That's, so anyway, you're right, the county is going to do that work, and it's gonna cost us a few bucks. Originally, I'd heard that the county was gonna do that roundabout and fix Old Meridian first. I've heard now that, they're planning on extending New Meridian to 24 before they start Old Meridians, which makes a lot more sense, but there again, there's, I wanna work with the county in a better way. We don't have that great a communication. I've been in contact with them, trying to find out more information about what their plans are. Like I said, I want a construction schedule. They have a roundabout in Old Meridian, plus they're gonna lower Old Meridian. Both of those things will affect us. Since it's a brand new road going in, we wanna be able to plan for the future. There's properties there that are gonna have to be serviced sooner or later, so we wanna prepare for that.
Do you have hold harmless and indemnification agreements? If they bust your line, okay, you can't operate because they just busted your line, do you have a hold harmless and indemnification agreement? Their construction damaging you.
If they break our line, they have to fix it.
Oh, you might
It's
consider
rules
that.
of the road.
That would be very normal.
Yeah.
It is the county.
Yeah.
They don't get government immunity for the contract.
It'll be a contractor.
Yeah, that's my point.
That's all, we have to go to the individual websites too and look at them to see and check county database and see how they're progressing. I know that supposedly last month King Supers was back in on this corner. So I don't know if that's changed between then and now. Their process of getting all their plans and everything approved, because they had a lot of things that had to be worked through the county and engineering, was taking a lot longer than they anticipated, was the last thing that I heard.
But I just reviewed the plans for, that the county asked us to review for Falcon Marketplace. And, talked with the engineer for the developer, and they're hoping to have everything all wrapped up by the end of October. So, that's the best we can do right now.
Other than that, Falcon Fields is progressing, Circle K is still doing their thing over there at the Diamond Shamrock area, but we haven't heard back from them since we had taken the last motion on that.
We're still saying no about a car wash, right?
Yeah, we're not doing a car wash.
So, and then, of course, Bentgrass is moving forward.
Yes,
What does that mean?
with their build out over there.
Or not the extension to the other Bentgrass, that the whole road goes through.
Jerry, does Bentgrass's drainage
Part,
affect,
that's part of it.
Yeah.
King Soopers?
Bentgrass what?
Does the Bentgrass drainage affect King Soopers?
You know, I really can't answer that, you know, drainage is a county issue, so.
That was one of their holdups at one of the meetings on the design. They had put that big drainage pond with the gates in.
The retention on the
The
north side.
retention on the north end, and then run it under.
There's a huge, underground drain, storm sewer under the Felton Marketplace. Because, you know, when they have a pipe that big, it affects our pipes, cause it has to be a certain distance below the grade, and then ours have to run underneath it, you know.
That's a crux of it.
And I just seen that the portion over here behind, where the Red Barn's at and stuff is up for sale. So, that Banning Lewis piece of property there on the north side is now for sale. And I think it's at the county right now. They have some proposals to move forward with developing that.
Where?
On the north side of Woodman, where that big red barn horse property is there, that's Banning Lewis Ranch property, and it is being sold.
Really?
I don't know where it is.
That's too
Woodman,
bad.
Woodman and,
You know, you have all the 5-acre lots there, like Raptor, Buddhist temple and stuff right there.
Mohawk.
Woodman,
Mohawk.
yeah, Woodman
Yeah,
Hills.
west of Mohawk.
Woodman.
Down Woodman,
Down Woodman.
As you travel west on Woodman, on the north side of Woodman.
which is where Mountain View Electric is, which is where I live.
Yeah,
Yeah,
on,
so down
down,
far
West-
down
west
further.
of there.
Yeah.
Past the bus, past where D49's bus depot is
Okay,
there.
and then,
It's the horsey ranch there.
So, on the county side, there's a map of what's actually
That's so sad.
being sold and gonna be developed.
is there something that's the Peak Landscaping, has the sign
Yeah.
that's that.
That is so sad.
The one just past them.
Past
There's a
them.
piece of government land for
Okay.
NOAA
Okay.
there, and then there's Banning Lewis property.
Wow,
Well,
okay.
the worst part is they built all that out without the infrastructure to improvement, which is causing all of our traffic issues. That's what's frustrating.
Well,
You have traffic issues?
But I think you've been working with what, Meridian Ranch, and JDS and them on a regional sewer design to take us out here, Falcon, into the future as far as, I don't know if you've ever seen it, maybe that's something we could do sometime is when we come into the board meeting, is bring the map of the sewer line design and how it's been piecemealed together over the years out here in Falcon instead of, you know, and they've been working collaboratively with the other districts to try to put together a regional plan to kind of make it more efficient for everybody going forward. And it would end up being less expensive instead of piecemealing everything together over and over again. So,
One thing about it is, you know, development's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. So you have to plan for it, and you have to, you do it, you know, in a coordinated effort. And that's one of our problems out here is we've got 5 districts all working independently. And we're trying to bring them all in and all think on the same level about what's best for the Falcon area, not just one district. So that's how we ended up with the wastewater plant in the middle of a residential.
Any other business? Say, I will motion for adjournment.
Second.
Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
I'm gonna put my rim mark dry when I get home.
Rachel?
They're on the smoker.
Rachel?
Oh, they'll be fine.